The lion banner sways and falls in the horror-haunted gloom. A scarlet dragon rustles by, borne on winds of doom. In heaps the shining horsemen lie, where the thrusting lances break, and deep in the haunted mountains, the lost black gods awake. Dead hands grope in the shadows, the stars turn pale with fright, for this is the dragon's hour, the triumph of fear and night.
Unmute yourself.
You're still
Hello,
muted,
everyone.
Hi.
I screwed up.
I've fallen for that as well.
Nice one.
So many times.
It's my fault. As soon as I arrive, things start going haywire.
I've
Whoops.
fallen for that so many times.
Thank you, World of Conan. You're the smart one here.
Hey, I wasn't muted either.
Oh, okay. Well, you're the almost a smart one.
I wasn't muted. You were muted.
Ah, okay, fine. I'm the stupid one in the room. Anyways.
We'll accept that.
Hello and welcome to all the men and women of the West, as well as all the members of the Barbarian Horde, and whatever gang Zero is part of.
I have a mercenary group somewhere parked over in Kentaris. So
Okay, the Red Brotherhood.
He's a
So-
part of the Barbarian Horde, obviously.
yeah, it's just the Barbarian Horde in this case has mechs. So
No, wait.
Space
Blue-
Vikings.
Bleu and Blanche are the colors of Quebec, so you're part of the Blue Brotherhood, not the Red Brotherhood. So,
Railguns don't discriminate on color.
yeah. Anyways, we are continuing with Dragon Hour, with this time chapters 11 and 12, and we are thankfully, and I'm very happy that we've got Zero with us this time.
Yes.
Glad to be here, gentlemen.
We tried to get you in for the last one, and that proved tricky.
Mhm.
Thank God we've got you here now.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and we got some good chapters here.
Oh yeah, I
We
really
should-
love.
We should get Zero's opinion so far on the.
Oh,
Well,
sure.
Hour of the Dragon is a classic. Obviously, it definitely takes inspiration and plot points throughout the previous Conan stories, in a sense being kind of a cliff notes in many ways of the entire Conan story up to that point. As you see, multiple references and multiple reused plot points that are used throughout. But as it stands as the only full-length Conan novel written by Robert E. Howard, although it was eventually came out serialized rather than the actual planned novelization that was originally contracted for, it's pretty freaking damn good. I don't know how the swearing works on this show,
Yeah,
but
it's great.
Well,
It is
so
kinda
it
like
is
a-
definitely one of those stories that really, really shows not just the breadth. Hello, Epic Kingdom.
Hello.
Not just the quality of Howard's writing for the character, but also the breadth of it. You have all these different elements of the Conan tales all brought together into a single long form story.
and what I'm
Yeah, that
very
was what I was.
is also that Epic Kingdom here is a Tolkien tuber, so we've started to get some of the Tolkien fans into Conan, I think.
Yeah.
Which is part of the mission of our Dan and my channel.
Yeah.
To get the some crossing between the two.
Well, there's more in common between Howardian Sword and Sorcery and Tolkienian fantasy than most people will think. They're both inspired by that more northern saga kind of feel to them. Those particular kinds of tales and that particular mythological tone. Both Tolkien stories and Howard stories are both on the spectrum, on opposite sides of the spectrum, but they are on the same spectrum of heroic fantasy. If you could put Aragorn into you could put Aragorn into the Hyborian Age, or Conan or some other character of the same type into Middle Earth, and you could make it work. They have enough in common with regards to the general ethos between both, that there is a great deal of commonality between them.
Yeah, and Dan and I made a Conan in Arda video, and we had a blast doing that. And actually, it was pretty well received. Though we even found a way to sneak in Samaria into the north near Angmar, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean the hillmen that Saruman sicks onto the Erlingas, they could technically fit into that area. Not quite Sumerians, obviously, but kind of like in the borders of that. They would fit into Highborn Age too.
What did you think of? Real quick, maybe we'll have to do another, like a couple of videos, the three of us, and just about the characters and whatnot. But what did you think of, for example, Zaltotun and Zenobia, respectively?
Well, Zaltotun is interesting in that he's the stereotypical evil wizard, albeit far more powerful than pretty much any other one that's been brought to the fore, at least in the Conan stories. He's definitely, he makes Thothamon look like a child in comparison to, just the sheer amount of actual real magic that he's throwing around. For as important as Thothamon has become in the Conan mythos, thanks to the comics and stuff like that, he's barely a character in that first story. Whereas Zaltotun is just like, okay, this guy's bad news, and he is very capable of actually, guten Abend, yes, very capable of truly following through on his threat to bring back the Nightmare Empire of Acheron. But
Mark Schreiber is another Tolkien fan, so we're starting to get them pouring in.
Yeah, but here's the other thing, though. He's not all there. That first moment when he's resurrected, he's like, I'm Zaltotun, I am dead. He has to be reminded by his handlers of who he is. There's a very good possibility that the Heart of Ahriman didn't actually bring him back to life all the way. That he is basically he's not resurrected. He's just an animate corpse, as, it will be mentioned in later chapters, at some point. That this thing is just a mummy that believes itself to be Zaltotun, when in reality it's some kind of like artificial personality recreating a facsimile of Zaltotun with all his power, obviously. But nevertheless, not truly him in a certain sense. At least that's one interpretation.
Yeah. And as for Zenobia,
she comes out of nowhere a little bit. That's one of the things I like about the Dark Horse comic adaptation. They kind of weaved her in a little bit more in that version of this story.
I've not gotten that far ahead then.
Well, suffice to say, she does kind of she shows up and declares her undying love for Conan, and she is a very capable character in her own right. She's not a full-time warrior, but she knows how to pick out a good knife and knows how to deal with dangerous situations on her own to a certain extent. So it makes sense that Conan would be very impressed with her. But she does kind of come out of nowhere for that scene. It's like, okay, how's Conan going to get out of this one? We'll have one of the slave girls declares her undying love and unlock his cell and give him a knife. And yeah, okay. It's the pulp kind of, and then this happened kind of aesthetic that, you either take it or leave it, really.
Yeah. Though, here, I'm just going to fix my camera. But that said, I think, though, that it's akin to Gandalf escaping from Saruman's tower with the help of some bird brains.
Yeah.
So it's, I do see how you could see it as written yourself.
Well, it helps if you know about from The Hobbit that he has a previous alliance with the Eagles.
Yeah.
So.
We've got CJ, I think one of our Dragonlance fans. Hey, fellas, catching you guys live for the first time. Oh, that's nice.
Hey.
Excellent.
For the love of what God you believe in, stop it with my family name. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to pronounce it. You Germans have weird family names. Anyway, I know next to nothing about Conan, but listening in and learning something can't be wrong. Nope.
Suffice to say, he's awesome.
All right.
So
I just wanted to say I agree with Zero about I was just reading the Hour of the Dragon, and I just felt like it's really a culmination of everything Conan. It's really like like you see in these
distillation.
chapters, Yeah, he's like goes through. He's reminded of his mercenary stage, and all these like you get. It's kind of like a culmination. You got all these flashbacks, and you have all these things that reminded what Conan went through in his life and all the stories. So it is a really good like send off because it is almost the last story. Only
Yeah.
with,
Well,
nails-
chronologically, in terms of the ones that Howard wrote, it is the last story.
Yeah, exactly. So it
Yeah, not the
works
last story he ever
beautifully.
wrote. That'd be Red Nails, but
yeah, works
It's-
beautifully.
The last one in the continuity that Howard wrote.
Yeah,
It comes in at the end of his continuity,
exactly, yeah.
and it's probably the best story. I remember at one point, I heard it said somewhere that I forget who it was. Might have been me, might have been someone else, but where the only novel like of any kind of fantasy or mythology of the 20th century or recent years that comes close to Lord of the Rings was Hour of the Dragon. And it's the closest that there's been to a Lord of the Rings killer. But in a way, I might argue Lord of the Rings was more an Hour of the Dragon killer. In that Lord of the Rings came 15 years later.
Yeah.
So 17 years later. So it's more like Lord of the Rings slew Hour of the Dragon, and now there's no Lord of the Rings killer because the only potential rival, Lord of the Rings, overtook and beat at its own game to an extent.
And let's not forget that Howard was the only writer that Tolkien didn't really have anything to criticize about.
Oh yeah. When he read the Black Colossus.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, if you're gonna read a Conan tale, that's a damn good one right there.
yeah, that's a
CJ DeYoung the third says, "I've only seen the Conan movies. You guys are so into Conan, can't help but thinking I've been missing something." Yeah,
read the stories.
yeah,
They're worth it. They're short stories, so you aren't going to be taking too long to get through them. And
No.
you'll notice a lot of stuff referenced in the John Milius movie that is from the stories. A Witch Shall Be Born has the crucifixion. There's a couple of other tales, but honestly, they're well worth hunting down, and you can get a good omnibus edition these days for pretty cheap. So, and they're on like online on Project Gutenberg. You can look up the entire Conan story collection. So there you go. You don't have to pay a nickel to get able to read this stuff.
Yeah.
I might have to write up a list, a reading order list.
I think the Kindle was like $2 or something.
Yeah, it was about $1. But the complete edition is about $10 to $20, I think.
There's also on Kindle the complete Robert E. Howard library. That's like $2.
Oh,
You get everything. So there's some spelling errors. So that's a bit of a
That's
problem.
the one
But
I got.
Yeah, personally, I'd say just go with the order of publication. You're good to go. That way, you get to see not just these stories as Howard intended them to be read. Like going all over the place throughout the chronology as Conan remembers it, so to speak. But also, you get to see Howard changing as a writer as time goes on, which is another nice thing.
Yeah.
But without further ado, let's dive into Chapter 11. Now, real quick, last time on
The Conan Hour
reboot, we saw Conan pretty much, give him the slip and end up discussing with Hadrathus, the priest of Asura, who saved his life. And then we had Valerius, who suddenly realized Conan's out there and sends 4 men of Catan after Conan and Albiona, the countess whom Conan had rescued so nobly, who was willing to die for him, which is pretty impressive on her part.
The man knows how to inspire the ladies.
Yeah.
And the man.
I do wonder if she's maybe part of his harem or something.
I don't think so. I think she probably wouldn't mind, but
Okay, that's probably more likely. I believe we discussed that. She probably is pining after him and probably doesn't see her that way.
I mean, wouldn't we all?
Yeah, we're all technically pining after Conan.
It's probably been a long time since Aquilone had a good king, so everyone's like, yes, let's grab a hold of this guy for the good times. Like,
don't mind reading.
Enough with the tyrants.
Yeah. I mean, Nabonidus didn't exactly make many friends.
No,
All right.
no,
So
he really didn't.
it is at this point that we find out that Conan has been, well, he ends up kind of guiding a ship downstream
Hmm.
with him and Albiona pretending that it's a funerary barge.
Yeah.
Because it's decorated like one.
Yeah, one of the Asura worshippers' funerary pilgrim boats, as they're called.
Yep. And Conan generally manages the guiding of the ship during the day, her during the night. And yeah, it's weird imagery that kind of brings to mind almost Sharon from
Yeah, true.
mythology.
There's a lot.
with
There's a
some-
lot of mythological things going
Yeah.
through all
Yeah.
the whole story. Definitely.
And it's really just like 4 or 5 little paragraphs. It's just the intro to this chapter, that whole thing. But Howard managed to pack in a lot of imagery.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah, and she's basically, yeah, it's a very peculiar couple of paragraphs, and you could probably do a whole video on that, but we're just gonna skim through.
Yeah.
Where the Korotas swings eastward, skirting the Poitrain, I'm struggling here, mountains. Well, the Korotas is, I believe, the river, the Great River, unless I'm very much mistaken. And just making doubly sure. Yep. And it's one of the main rivers, it seems, of Aquilonia, primarily to Poitrain.
Mhm.
Oh, and real quick, CJ Young, yeah, like get any of the editions or whatever that we recommended. You just start reading at the start of the book, like no matter what, you'll have a great time because Conan stories are. Howard was a truly gifted writer.
Yeah. Self-taught, too, which is already doubly impressive.
Yeah, yeah. Not all writers are self-taught. Some are.
Polyglot. He learned a lot about various cultures,
History,
history.
completely self-taught.
Yeah.
In every field that he knew, from geography to history. Was like he knew history better than some history professors I knew.
Mhm.
It's-
Even from some areas of the world that
Back then, nobody knew about.
exactly that what they share their history or their mythology with the rest of the world. And Howard knew about it and learned about it, all out of his own personal library.
Yeah, man was impressive.
Damn right.
He was an autodidact. Is the term. But I'm just checking my notes. It would also appear that, let's see. Oh, right. And the river south of Poitrain is the Aleman, which sounds like the Alemanni tribe of German barbarians from the Roman period.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of historical references in the Conan's tales. The Sword and Sorcery, at least Howardian, as Howard did, was basically historical fiction with magic and demons and stuff. So
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of this kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of historical and mythological records, like the cult of Set, for example.
Yeah.
Or Poitin, which is a French name, obviously, and the province of Poitin is actually, I think, is there an actual Poitin? That'd be an interesting question, because no, okay, it doesn't experience, but it does sound like a place that would actually exist, doesn't it?
Well, I think there's Poitou. I think it is.
Yeah, there is definitely some,
The Aquitaine. So it's basically drawn from
Aquitaine,
Greek.
yeah,
That-
Aquitaine, Aquilonia. There's, definitely some thoughts. It definitely helps to give an idea of the feel of a place when you have a similar idea of the name.
Yeah. And of course, Conan is offered by the follower of Asura. Like I could, I've come to guide you through the mountains to the first Poitrain stronghold. Conan just rebuffs him, telling him, I don't need a guide. I know these hills well. I thank you for the horses. but the Countess and I will attract less attention alone than if we were accompanied by an acolyte of Asurla.
Mhm.
Which is
Which
pretty-
guy's like, okay.
Yeah, the guy is like, hey, I'm basically the servant. I don't question orders.
That's the offer.
Yeah. And I like how, I just like how he just goes, okay. And
Or like how, the guy says, "How came?" inquired Conan, but the other merely bowed again. Just doesn't. How'd you get here?
Yeah,
You
the
need to know
word.
that.
Yeah, because
You may be king, but I don't need to tell you everything.
he wanted to know how they got the information so fast.
Yeah.
The other side before them.
Well, Asura doesn't have to tell all its secrets.
I'm not going
Yeah.
to make any Batman comments.
well,
This is a really interesting ritual. This whole thing, anyway.
we should look into whether or not the Asura's answer to a guy called Raz Al Ghul.
I think if that were the case, the usurpers in Tarantia would have probably had their throats cut long before the end of this story.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
Conan would wait, there was insurrection? That's all it's handled. What? Hail Asura. Bye.
Man. And you'd probably have at least one character portrayed by Liam Neeson.
Oh, of course.
But
I don't know. I mean, Trocero could probably be played by Liam Neeson.
I'd love that. I could see
Oh,
that.
definitely.
I was wondering, are the Azuran followers as mysterious in their own home country as they are in the West, or are they just
Well, possibly, but they're probably just less mistrusted, I guess.
or
Well, that would
mysterious
seem
about their
likely.
rituals? I mean,
Yeah. Well, like a lot of mystery cults, if you look at ancient mystery cults, ripping myself a bit, but they typically had an outer degree. When you first recruited, and then as you go up through the organization, then you learn a bit more and more and more and more. Hence, mystery cults. So there would probably be certain things that are kept hidden from the lay members
of
that were
course.
only for the inner circle, depending on how it works.
I just
Well,
meant
you
like the outward ritualistic
You
appearances.
probably assume that the cult of Azura might be based on aspects of Hinduism, considering
seems
one of
likely.
the deities of Hinduism is Ashura.
Yeah.
Or Asura.
Yeah. Not to mention that if in their home country, there's probably a whole bunch of other religious organizations that do stuff just as weird as them. So, kind of like they wouldn't necessarily stand out as stringing just people around.
Yeah. But it is revealed that Patin had, though she had not formally declared her separation from Aquilonia, she basically considers herself a self-contained kingdom for all intents and purposes, as Trocero had decided, no, he's not going to serve Valerius.
Yeah. We had rather serve the memory of a dead man than the scepter of a living dog.
Yeah, as he puts it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, though, is that the Crimson Leopard banner, that is reminiscent of the leopard banner that the kings of England used for centuries against France and whatnot. So that's what it kind of brings to my mind. Although, that said, probably no offense to any of the English, or every offense, I'm joking. You guys didn't use it in half the heroic manner Trocero did.
It depends on your perspective.
Well, we're French, so we don't regard it as heroic. Okay.
I'm half German. Talk to me about heroic wars one of these days. Don't have that many of them lately.
Well, any of them waged in the name of France. Okay.
Yeah, most of the more recent
Right.
wars were waged against France, and not by the nicest of people. So,
Well, I meant any of the wars waged by France for France. That automatically heroic. Especially by this one guy. What was his name? Napoleon, I think.
Mr. Nappy,
Yep, Napes. It was heroic.
Nappy Leon.
Actually, that sounds like
Yeah.
the name of an animated series Don Bluth character. I should make a note and mention that to him later. Let's see. Or to Laval. Anyways, what's interesting is that Conan ends up soon confronted by some dark-haired and dark-eyed knights who tell him, halt in the name of the law for all intents and purposes. And Conan questions them, asking, is Poitin in revolt then? And that's when they say that great line of yours, we had rather serve the memory of a dead man than the scepter of a living dog, which just goes to show the depth of loyalty these men feel towards Conan.
Mm-hmm.
So what's interesting is that the more, I don't know how to describe it in English, but I guess you could say the nobles who are just simple aristocrats prefer Valerius, but the warrior aristocracy kind of prefer Conan.
No, because he's one of them, really. He started out as a mercenary, a warrior, and is now in charge of the place. I mean, they obviously see a bit of themselves in him.
Yeah,
I mean, nobles have a lot to lose, so they probably easily flip. Though they probably like some of them like Conan better, but as we see with Trocero, but they have to take account of their own dukedoms and all that stuff. So they
exactly
that's a
figure.
They probably their loyalties based on what they focus on, because some nobles would focus more on mercantilism, others are more warriors, others are more diplomatic, snobby.
And some are just a bunch of backstabbing bastards.
Yeah,
that as well.
Most are.
That goes without saying.
Yeah. But then you have the fact that the knights, when they realize it's Conan, go, "Saints of heaven, it is the king alive." I didn't know they had saints back then. I'm joking. Long before the Christian church. Or did the Christian church rip off the worship of Mitra? I sense a copyright.
I mean, there's obviously some Catholicism in the way that the Church of Mitra is organized a little bit in terms of like Apollonia at the very least. Other places have different versions of this stuff, but there's obviously a bit of Christianity in there.
Well, like I said, there might be a lawsuit pending. I'd say I feel bad for Francis, but I really don't. I side with Mitra. Glory to him. And Epimetheus. But the nope.
By crumb.
But I wonder if Conan doesn't actually talk about his religion, so not many of the men would know he's more a follower of Crom than Mitra. But I wonder what they would think of the faith of Crom.
Though Mitra helps Conan more.
Yeah, Crom is not exactly the most helpful of guys.
Nope.
No, he'd rather throw dooms.
But Mitra actually helps him in Phoenix on the Sword.
Yep.
Or at least a sorcerer who calls upon Mitra.
Well, yeah.
Well, Mitra is definitely not the type to actually directly intervene, or at least not in a way that's completely, without any kind of, interpretation in that regard. But
Hanway.
Yeah, but Crom is basically the god for atheists. Really, he just like sits on his mountain, doesn't do anything. And if you try praying for him, you're not getting anything good out of it. So just don't. Just do your thing. That's it.
Best to worship Paladin in that case.
From Dragonlance. Yeah. But, all right. World of Conan, what do you make of how the Potenier knights react to Conan?
I was thinking that it's interesting. Obviously, the whole country is in chaos, but they have somehow, they've held off a little bit of independence in Poitin, and as we find out, they haven't, as of yet, wanted to conquer Poitin. But I think that would be probably they would have to they wouldn't win because of Xaltatun. He would do his magic. He would do the magic at some point anyway. So they basically kind of like a losing battle fighting. But they rather, like they say, die for a memory.
Yeah.
Sometimes when the evil is so bad, like you're confronted by the evil, it's just better to exit stage left than to stay under something like totally incredibly awful. So they're kind of like, which we see in mythology and history and all that, the undying troops, or I mean, like the undying loyalty. I mean, they're loyal to death, so they will fight to the end, and that's what they have chosen. So it does fit in with the lore, because Poitin obviously has were they the most loyal, I think, knights of Conan, and a large part of his black dragons, I think, Palantides and all those guys. So
it's mentioned here in one of the just after we get to this part where he reveals himself. Let's see, where was it here? Yeah, he takes off his helmet, gets running. What are your commands? Just describing that. The mountains were uninhabited save by outlaws and garrisons of soldiers who guarded the passes. The pleasure-loving Pointanians had no need nor desire to wrest a hard and scanty living from the sincere in their breasts. South of the ranges, no, it's not that. That's just okay. Basically, because these guys beyond the river of Poitin, the river Alimane, is Zingara, which is another country just south of Aquilonia that they've had numerous, border wars between them. So Poitin is basically on a semi-permanent war footing as it is. It's mentioned like right here. To the east lay Argos, and beyond that Ophir, proud kingdoms, and Avaricious. The knights of Poitin held their lands by the weight and edge of their swords, and little of ease and idleness they knew. So these are the kinds of people that Conan's going to have a lot in common with. These guys are professional warriors. They're similar in certain ways to if you read Beyond the Black River, the kind of Aquilonian colonists that came into the Pictish lands. Those kinds of hard-working, hard-fighting people who are really willing to take up swords to defend their lands. The Pointanians are in many ways similar to that, only in a more settled-in kind of way.
Right.
Very well put. Very well put. And I can't really build on that. What I like is how one of them yells out, "Now we'll strike for Empery." Basically, we'll strike for Empire.
Yeah, it's kind of
not
the best idea.
It's like, no, we've got our king back.
Forces.
This guy is about to say, "We'll ride ahead. We'll let Wolves ride ahead. We'll have banners for everywhere." And it's like, no, dude, covert ops, man, covert ops. Keep it down low.
Bring in the war horns, sound the
one thing at a time, kids.
It's like,
but you have Hail Conan, King of Poitin. They're already proclaiming him. Okay, I guess Aquilonia is mostly lost. Well, he's King of Poitin now.
It's like King's Quest with Whisper.
It's Aquilonia in exile.
Yeah.
But
they're really not thinking this through.
Well, it's just some random foot soldier, so you can't really expect him to.
But on the other hand, it's pretty funny that the foot soldiers and knights are basically just getting carried away.
Or maybe that there's another reason, because they know that, they assume that Conan died at the cliffs. So they figured, because Conan was not on the battlefield, therefore the armies weren't as shaped together, like ready to fight and die. So now, because Conan is back, they will win, because he's basically the glue that holds everyone together. They figure that they lost more, so not because of Xaltatun, because they don't really know about Xaltatun. So they thought they lost more because of the morale and the strategies and all that stuff. So they figure maybe that plays into their account.
We'll win,
possibly, yeah.
Because we're Poitin, we don't not like the rest of the losers. We're better.
Yeah, that's true. Well, they are the last holdout, so
yeah, they are better. But I wonder if one thing to think about is that I think Howard at one point wrote that Conan would be kind of forced into the Empire game after Hour of the Dragon later in his life. So in a way, I guess one could almost take this as Howard kind of. I'm just kind of reading it forward. He's throwing the idea out there at the readers, like, well, now Conan's to fight for Empire, which, to an extent, yeah, and
because of the history.
Yeah,
the Hyborian essay that he did. Well, can't remember what it was called, but anyway,
the Hyborian Age, I think it was called, or
was it just Hyborian Age? All right, yeah. So that clearly tells of the empire that Aquilonia becomes too stretched out, and then it folds basically. Yeah,
the Turanians and the Picts end up carving it in half.
Yeah, Hyrcanians, Picts come, and then the Pictish Empire rises.
Then another ice age happens, more cataclysms, and just adios Hyborian Age.
Yeah, everyone moves more or less southward.
Assimilated them and done the Caesar thing to them when he had the chance.
There's certain people you just don't conquer.
Yeah, I guess. Especially if they're Scottish.
Yeah.
I'm cracking a joke about Pictland and Dalriada.
You mean that didn't the Scots bow to the English kings?
Well, technically, Scottish kings conquered England.
But also the other way around.
They're elected and nominated kings of England. So they went south and never went back north. So who conquered whom? They both kind of conquered each other.
Yeah, and the Vikings conquered everyone.
Yeah, and they didn't do a good job of conquering each other. Because they're both still standing today.
There you go.
Yeah, there should have only been one. I'm joking.
Yeah.
Bad joke, actually. Let's see. I still like the line. Let one of us ride ahead and bear the news of your coming into Poitin. Banners will wave from every tower. Roses will carpet the. Yeah, it's like you said, Zero. Like, calm down, one thing at a time, kids.
Yeah.
I wonder if the other territories feel that Poitin is kind of like teacher's pet or something of Conan.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as saying that. If you look at the final paragraph before we switch over to the next scene there, like he mentions, it was a land of warmth and plenty of beautiful men, ferocious warriors. It is not only the hard lands that breed hard men. Poitin was surrounded by covetous neighbors, and her sons learned hardihood in incessant wars. So, yeah, it's a great place to live, lots of great food, great scenery, and everybody wants it. So if you want to keep it, you better start, get ready to go hippity-hoppity, get the half off my property. Basically, it's Aquilonia, Texas.
Yeah, I was going to also make a
good point.
Yeah, you can compare it to Texas, but also France throughout much of her history. Because everybody wanted France.
Everybody wanted Normandy.
What? And you had the Holy Roman Empire, you had later Germany, you had England, you had everybody who wanted France. Till after Napoleon, when the French and the English just decided to team up against everyone else. Because why not? Why not?
I mean, the only person that has the right to conquer you is me. So everybody else, screw off.
Yep. And of course, Conan is well received by Tricero, who is, well, a rather restless man, who's described as a restless man with the waist of a woman and the shoulders of a swordsman. So yeah, Liam Neeson. I'm kidding. But the Count tries to urge him, let us proclaim you king of Poitin. Let those northern pigs wear the yoke to which they have bent their necks. The south is still yours. Dwell here and rule us amid the flowers and the palms. And Conan tells him, there is no nobler land on earth than Poitin, but it cannot stand alone. Bold as are its sons. And Trocero takes offense and says, "It did stand alone for generations."
Does
We were not
Trocero
all-
know about? I was just gonna say, does Trocero know about Exalted Tune?
Nope. He mentions
No.
later on, like you weren't,
Right.
you were not there, not in my tent before Valkia, answered Conan grimly.
Yeah.
You didn't see the cliffs thunder down to crush the flower of my army. No, Trocero. I have been convinced Zaltotin's no mortal man, and only with the heart of Ahriman can I stand against him. So I'm riding to Cordava alone.
Yeah. So basically, really, no one knows about Exalted Tune. So that,
Or at least they don't know the extent of just how absolutely mind-numbingly dangerous this guy is.
Yeah. So everyone's thinking on the army level, but no one's thinking on the the wizard level. You gotta take out.
There is one character who's thinking like that, Conan.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like he's the only one really on point.
Yeah.
No one really knows.
Yep. And Trocero comments, we were not always a part of Aquilonia, which this is a commentary lore-wise on the fact that it was once a separate land, but apparently was conquered or annexed in some fashion.
Yeah, possibly a part of Zingara.
Yeah. I wonder if it was brought into Aquilonia by marriage a few centuries ago. Rather like how Poitou was brought into the Angevin Empire by Aliénor d'Aquitaine with Henri II.
Possibly.
Yeah. Do you know the history of Henri II and Aliénor, World of Conan?
Nope.
Basically, Henri was heir to the throne of England through his mother, Mathilde, the Empress, and he ended up also being heir to the Duchy of Normandy and Anjou, two large parts of France. And right before he went to claim his throne in England, he ended up marrying the former queen, Aliénor, who was the largest female landowner in France. She brought in Poitou and Aquitaine to her husband, and the two united and ended up having several kids, including Richard the Lionheart, or Richard Coeur de Lion, Jean,
right,
and Robin Hood.
Which Henry?
Henry II.
Henry. Oh, right.
So basically, pretty important people.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if maybe that's how. I wonder if Howard had ever considered maybe that might have been one way, or maybe he just simply deliberately left it in the fog of history deliberately. So,
well, there's no other mention of how Poitin was acquired by Aquilonia, so I'm guessing fog of history is very much.
Yeah.
This is also where we hear about the days of empire. Empires are upon us. So before there were dukedoms and free cities, and that's what Conan says. Like it's not going to go backwards. We have to go forwards because people are dreaming of empires right now. But it is interesting that Zingara is in a civil war. It seems like all the times you read about Conan stories or someone does the comics and stuff like that, there's always civil wars. There's always
Zingara is very much inspired by Spain, and that in many ways. Yeah. But
I'm just thinking, like, because Turan also had the civil war and stuff like that. Everyone's at civil war.
And I can't help but think of the acquisition of Aquilonia with Poitin. There might be emotions from how Texas was acquired by the United States. And some of Howard's feelings on that is coming through.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, very likely, because Texas.
He'd be well aware of the the history of Texas, obviously.
Texas joined the Union reluctantly, and pretty much immediately had seller's remorse or buyer's remorse, and then wanted to leave during the Civil War, simply because she didn't like being part of the Union and was made to be part of the Union afterwards. And now today, every Texan
would have been better.
Every Texan I talk to, they always mention how they're going to go independent one day, and how Texas.
They still call themselves the Republic of Texas.
Yeah, they don't consider themselves part of the Union, and it's something very fascinating about them. And Howard wrote a little bit about the subject and how he felt that Texas should have always remained independent. He's one of those philosophical godfathers in a way of the current movement.
They would probably be better off if they were.
Yeah.
I figure. There's quite a lot of corruption on the federal level.
Yeah, there always is.
Yeah, there's some Quebecois people who be very much in favor of something similar, but
Yeah. Hey,
anyway,
if Quebec goes independent, I'm moving there. Like,
wait to see if it works out first.
yeah, if there's always something to do, even if it does not fully work out.
In any case,
anyways, that said, you are right, World of Conan, in that there's a commentary about the days of dukedoms and free cities and whatnot, which is reminiscent of the 10th century of France, when basically every nation was basically subdivided into duchies, free cities, and now you have the days of empires, and rulers are dreaming imperial dreams, and that seems to worry Conan a great deal. But he also comments later, "Let others dream imperial dreams. I but wish to hold what is mine." He just wants Aquilonia. He doesn't want the other countries.
Yeah, it's what he feels he's earned.
Yeah, but he's going to be pushed into empire against his will.
Yeah, probably not the best time as well, to dream empire dreams right now. No, he's got to hold first.
Yep. I like how Troquero tries to say, "Let us unite Zingaro with Patin. Half a dozen princes strive against each other, and the country is torn asunder by civil wars. We will conquer it, province by province, and add it to your dominions. Then with the aid of the Zingarans, we will conquer Argos and Ophir. We will build an empire." Even Troquero is thinking of empire.
Well, I mean, when you've got Conan on your side, it's easy to start thinking big,
Yeah.
Yeah, he still doesn't understand Xaltatunes. The problem of Xaltatunes.
He doesn't understand that there's somebody else thinking of empire, only he's thinking of a much, much older one, and he's planning on resurrecting it through the blood and bones of the current people.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's where Conan tells him, what I just said about let others dream of dreams.
Yeah, didn't Acheron, like they really sacrificed people a lot?
Yeah, full on Aztec.
yeah. So they're not good.
Yep. Oh, wait, we have another comment. Listening to you made me remember a character heavily inspired by Conan the Barbarian of Terry Pratchett's Discworld.
Yeah, that was more like a gentle parody of Conan than necessarily that, but you definitely see the resemblances.
Okay, I'm not familiar with Discworld. So.
He's a very old barbarian dude with a long white beard, and he's just like kind of cranky about the whole thing, but he's still got that barbarian spirit. I mean, it's Conan the Barbarian. Come on, someone's taking the piss.
Yep.
And Terry Pratchett is known with his humor. Fantasy books are really laced with the humor.
Oh yeah, they're basically comedies.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
But one thing about what Conan says: "Let others dream imperial dreams. I but wish to hold what is mine. I have no desire to rule an empire welded together by blood and fire." Which this is a rather this is the opposite of bloodthirsty. And when you tend to think of Conan, a lot of people tend to think of someone who's bloodthirsty, but he's demurring from a great deal of violence there, showing a rather gentler side to his character than what a lot of people might expect. But there's another thing. Let others dream imperial dreams. The thing about this is that Conan is showing one virtue that, Christians would probably love, and one that Tolkien built his entire mythos around, and that is the notion of humility and humbleness.
Yeah.
Conan only wants what he has earned. He wants nothing more, and he is demurring from becoming greedy and whatnot.
Yeah.
And trying to aspire after a higher moral value. So, and that feels, no offense, rather more Tolkienian there than Howardian to an extent, as some might think it. But Howard did end up writing quite a few times rather humble characters at times, and even some who thought lowly of themselves, as in the case of Kull. at times. And so, yeah.
There's also an honor aspect there.
Yeah. Like when the line continues from there is that, where does it say here? Yeah, it's one thing to seize a throne with the aid of its subjects and rule them with their consent. It's another to subjugate a foreign realm and rule it by fear. I don't wish to be another Valerius. No, Trocero, I'll rule all Aquilonia, no more, or I'll rule nothing. So there's a sense of, not necessarily democratic, because we're obviously dealing with a monarchy here, but there's a sense of, the rule for the people, not necessarily by the people in this case, because it's a king, not democratically elected leader, but having the the will of the people behind you in order to justify your rule, as opposed to the previous line with Nabonidus and those who are like, I am king because my bloodline extends to the ancient times, and I have the divine right of this nut, strangled on your throne, taking your crown. People are with me now.
Yeah. Also, like, who wants to rule with fear in that sense? Like, you always got to look behind you. Who's got the dagger that's coming in your back? Wouldn't it be not much nicer to rule with, with the consent of the people? Like, you're actually beloved by the people, so you don't have to fear every day someone's going to plot to.
I've once heard it said, those who rule by fear rule through fear are ruled by fear. Yeah, you've heard that quote as well.
Makes sense.
My mentality is often, when it comes to such rulership, is that if you rule through fear, the moment there's someone stronger than you, the people won't fear you
because they're more scared of them than they are of you.
If you if you rule through loyalty, then the people will be willing to die for you.
Yeah.
But what's more is that Conan is expressing ideas that can be directly taken from the Declaration of Arbroath Abbey, where as long as 100 of us are alive, we will fight for that which no man gives up, save with life alone, freedom. And what they were declaring was that so long as Robert the Bruce defended them, they would fight for him, as he is fighting for their right to live and to have freedom. Yeah. But the thing is, if Robert the Bruce were to betray them, they express in the declaration that they'll kill Robert and nominate someone else king, which sort of, it almost came to that when Robert's son began selling out Scotland to England. And it was...
Yeah, the Scots would not have been happy about that.
No. It fell to Robert's grandson, Robert II, to later undo the damage David inflicted on Scotland after David died and pull Scotland away from England in a way. But then, it's Scottish history from there. But the idea of the Declaration of Arbroath Abbey is something that's about how you have to rule. You have to rule with the consent of your subjects and rule for them. In a way, you're almost a servant of theirs. And that's a notion that some monarchs don't like Numidides, but Conan probably would regard it as very true.
Yeah, I mean, bear in mind, Conan comes from more of a clannish society, the Cimmerians. And he's also, worked through many mercenary companies, which are independent, military hierarchies. So you definitely have that feel of, recurring meritocracy in those cases. You don't become the leader unless you earned it. Unlike other ones who inherited it. Like he mentions in Scarlet Citadel when he's confronting the people that, captured him and the nobles that have captured him, that he just, throws their inherited wealth and status right into their faces. Yeah. Which is, reference here where he very much really, I conquered this. I have the, consent of the populace to rule over them. I won't go out of my way to take over someplace else and, rule them with an iron fist. I'm not interested in that. I just want what I've earned. No more, no less. Don't give me something I didn't earn, and don't try to take something from me that you didn't.
Yeah.
Because Conan did rise, right? Because the people were fed up with Numidides, because he was actually becoming really tyrannical and killing people willy-nilly everywhere. And he had to step in like Conan had. There's no one to lead all these dukes and counts and they were I think they were bickering what to do. They didn't have the stones to step up to Numidian and stop the whole thing. So
There's one thing Conan's got: stones.
yeah. So.
But his first few years was spent fending off.
Of course.
Yeah, one usurpation attempt after another.
Yep.
I mean, basically, all of the King Conan stories involved attempts to remove him from the throne. This one, Phoenix on the Sword, is another assassination attempt. You have the betrayal during Scarlet Citadel that leaves him captured and thrown into the Scarlet Citadel. So all of these, stories of King Conan, as opposed to Conan in his earlier periods of his life, all involve outside parties for one reason or another attempting to remove him from the throne.
Yeah.
Because he is, after all, a usurper. Regardless of how good he is, there are people who want to get rid of him just for that.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, although some of the later King Conan stories involve him not having to fend off would-be usurpers.
Well, I mean the official ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like how we finally reached the point where, which you pointed out, World of Conan, you were not in my tent before Valkia, Conan.
Yeah.
Grimly. You didn't see the cliffs thunder down to crush the flower of my army. And he explains, Zaltotun's no mortal man, and only with the heart of Ahriman can I stand against him. So I'm riding to Gordava, alone. And I like how you have the line, but that is dangerous. Life is...
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, because
The guy that was
But-
going let's crusade. But that's dangerous.
yeah, he's like, then lead us over the mountains and we will smite the Numidians. Like, that's
No,
what
but
he said.
They're also regard because he's the royal person, so they are like they want to protect him, but
Yeah.
it's kind of irony because Conan has fought his entire life, so I mean he's
Yeah.
True, but I mean, all it takes is one bad break, and all of a sudden they're out
that's
of the
true.
leader.
That's
So
true. That's true.
that's always the danger. You can't always have Alexander being at the tip of his, cavalry going up into the other guy's pike
No.
formation. You know what I mean?
That's probably why
That
most
worked for
kings
him. It's not going to work for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
That's probably why most kings didn't, be on the front line. They were.
Yeah, remember, it's only heroic if you live. Otherwise, it's stupid.
The last political/military leader who led from the front was, at least in the West, was Charles de Gaulle in World War II,
Hmm.
who led from the front, and he was considered insane.
Yeah, and even then, he wasn't at the front line shooting the Germans along with everybody else in the front line. He was,
Sometimes, apparently, he might have in Africa, but
Yeah.
he led from
Yeah.
the front, I think, a few times, which is pretty nuts.
Yeah, because if he goes down, okay, there are other people who can come in, but they're not Charles de Gaulle.
Yeah, and well, he was considered nuts because he was French.
Yeah, they're not wrong.
But the French liked him.
There's a comment.
Let me see. Didn't work for the Lionheart. No, it did not.
Crossbow through the neck. Oh,
By the
Yeah.
kitchen guy.
yeah.
Hey,
On his way back after he gets released from prison.
Yeah, that's what
Comes all the way back, does a little side quest, and dead.
Yeah,
You was warned. No side quests.
Yeah.
He is not King Conan.
No, he thought he was, but he wasn't. And hey, he was getting in the way of that cook's dinner. A really good dinner, and no one gets in the way of a French chef.
I mean, is it any wonder they tried to outlaw crossbows for the longest time? Because, look at that, the chef kills the king with one bolt. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and when the chef is a better shot than any of your other men, you might want to start hiring more chefs for your army. Just saying.
I mean, the ones I've been going up against in Command and Conquer Renegades have flamethrowers, so yeah, they're pretty dangerous.
Okay. We need to make flamethrowers more common in the military. They seem to work.
Depends on whether you get shot or not.
Okay. But Conan has a good rebuttal to Tricero. Life is dangerous. I won't go as king of Aquilonia, or even as a knight of Poitin, but as a wandering mercenary, as I rode in Zingara in the old days. Oh, I have enemies enough south of the Aliman, in the lands and the waters of the south. Many who won't know me as king of Aquilonia will remember me as Conan of the Barakan pirates, or Amra of the Black Corsairs. Now, the name Barakan, I'm not entirely familiar with that, but
Barakan Isles, the island.
It's like Tortuga and those guys, those areas.
Yeah.
It's very much the Red Brotherhood territory, so Valeria be one of those folks. But this is cool. This is really the kind of thing that Howard could not have really done in earlier stories. You can do references, but to have this kind of thing happen, where he's like, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to call on every ally I've got on the way, is really something you can only do after you've established his career previously through prior stories.
Yeah.
To really make it stick.
What's interesting is that Aragorn takes over the Black Corsairs ships in Lord of the Rings. Yeah. And that's something that Conan and Aragorn both have connections to Black Corsairs.
Well, in this case, they're black, as in Africans.
Yeah. And it's one of those things Dan and I noted in a video where we ended up commenting on how Aragorn and Conan are essentially the same character. It's just archetypally they're the same character. There are minor differences, of course. Different writers. But if you look at them just as archetypes and some of the ideas both Tolkien and Howard had for them, you're essentially looking at through the universal unconscious, the same character.
Yeah, warrior king kind of returning to his throne that has been wrongfully taken from him.
Yeah.
And the equivalent here would be like a bunch of Haradrim, I guess, pirates.
Yep. Which would, The only thing is, also the name Amra, I believe, was the friend of Kull in the Exile of Atlantis story.
Possibly reference, but in this case, it's definitely from the Queen of the Black Coast reference to what he was called during those days. But
Amra the Lion.
Yeah,
the Lion.
I'm just looking for my copy of Kull.
Amra, A-M-R-A, young Atlantean man and friend of Kull in the days before Kull's exile from Atlantis.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank God for you.
And
quick on the draw.
Yep.
Yeah, and we met that character in our
in several videos. But what's more is that I just love the Amra reference. I love the Corsairs. But there's a reason why we kind of want in our Conan and Arda series to basically establish a Conan Aragorn bromance. Come on. They bond over slaughtering orcs. They totally would. They share the same
There would be mugs of mead shared over such slaughter.
Although I think
Conan would be home at killing orcs.
I mean, he's at home killing most people, so.
Hey, Conan would probably get along well with Boromir and Gimli.
Oh, definitely Gimli.
Only thing is, I think Denethor would hate Conan.
Denethor hates everybody. He's a very, very grumpy man.
Yep.
He'd use Bomber as a projectile.
Oh God, Bomber, the fat. I love him. Tolkien's continuous fat jokes. I love those. Anyways, I understand your. Right now, Conan basically suggests. Now, what's funny is that Albiona's been sitting around in this meeting, and nobody even paid her any attention. It's been so quiet, and then she ends up, vouching for Conan.
Yeah,
and explains that if Conan basically vouches that Zaltotun is like that, then he's no common wizard.
Yeah. And she brings up the coin depicting Zaltotun, this ancient coin that was shown to her. And that's, straight out of Black Colossus as well, that same concept.
Yeah. And you have Trocaro, who is then informed, "My lord, we have caught a man skulking about the castle who says he wishes to speak with your guest. I await your orders." "A spy from Aquilonia!" Trocaro catches at his finger.
He's a bit on edge.
Yeah, I mean, can you blame the guy? His country's pretty much, gone full evil sorcerer control. So
Yeah.
not quite there yet, but it's getting there. So
Yeah.
5 minutes.
but it turns out the man is a follower of Asura.
Yep. And that a merchant by the name, a Gothic merchant by the name of Zerathus was sold the heart of Ahriman. And that's something that Conan then goes, and what of Zerathus? 4 days ago, he crossed the Aliman, headed for Argos with a small band of armed servants. He's a fool to cross Zingara in such times, said Trocaro. Which, as it's proven in the next chapter, yes, very much so. Zerathus is really, really stupid. He's got more greed than brains. But he does
if it's civil war, civil war there, it's really dumb. Like, you're like open game for anyone to just here's someone, let's strike him down and take everything.
It's like walking into gang war territory and saying,
exactly.
I have bling. Come, gaze upon my bling.
Exactly.
You're just gonna get yourself robbed. It's like, now, if you're working as a mercenary, going to a civil war is probably a rather profitable endeavor. However, going there with a huge magic gem that glows and everybody's going to want as soon as they see it is not a good idea.
Nope.
No.
And he is in great haste to reach Missantia. I believe that's... Oh, yeah. And he hopes to
Argos.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
It was actually the first city we encountered in Queen of the Black Coast. That was the city that Conan was escaping from on that ship as he killed a judge there that wanted him to turn on one of his friends. And he's galloping down the street, getting to a ship to get the hell out of town before he gets caught by the guards.
And then he ends up on the one boat, and that's how he
then runs into Queen of Belit. They get laid a whole bunch for the next 2 years, and then she dies.
Yep. So, thanks for catching that. I forgot about Missantia.
This is why I'm here.
Yeah. Oh, I did.
Cordoba is on the other side.
I did note in my notes, though, Zero, so I've got check my notes. But anyways, what do I need notes for? I've got Zero right here.
I am the note master.
We'll have to remember that one for next time. Note master. Now, it's revealed that Zerathus wants to sell the gem in Stygia because they theorize he might have guessed at its true nature, but I'm not sure. I think he's just thinking profit, and
it looks like a pretty gem.
It looks like a pretty big gem with a kind of glow to it. So I'm thinking he's probably guessing, okay, I don't know exactly what this is. It's definitely something weird about it. And the one place I know where they have a lot of money and actually look for stuff like this is the country that's ruled by a theocratic order of sorcerers.
Who love their bling.
Who do love their bling.
So they'd want to buy this for their bling.
And their stuff.
That said, so the thing is he has struck straight across eastern Zingara, following the shorter and more direct route. And Conan, of course, I like how it says, smote the table with his clenched fist, so that the great board quivered. And by Crum, fortune has at last thrown the dice for me. Now, this is probably...
A horse, Trocero.
Yeah. I think he's making two references here. One is to Caesar. The die is cast when he goes to the Rubicon.
That's what came to mind just now, yeah.
Yeah, and a horse would be... A horse, my kingdom for a horse from Richard III by William Shakespeare. England's finest playwright.
England's finest maker-upper of words.
Yeah.
Did he exist?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a theory he didn't exist.
By stupid people.
Yeah.
But different playwrights or something coming together and making. Yeah.
And you know what, Zero? We don't say stupid. We say intellectually challenged. Be as respectful of these really dumb people as possible.
As respectful for these moronic idiots, we shall refer to them as the intellectually challenged.
Where does it stem from, though? Like the idea that like, Shakespeare.
A lot of it's
was
some basic classism, because Shakespeare was a kind of like middle class kind of guy, didn't grow up rich and stuff like that, and he's always writing about like kings and nobility and falconry and all these different characters that are kind of like
Right.
upper crust. And so a lot of people was like, oh, this guy didn't know anything about that, he's a fake. It has to be somebody posh to write this kind of stuff. We can't have some like lowborn writing the spirit of the age. It has to be somebody we would like to be. It is
Imbeciles.
Yep.
snobs, basically.
Yep. AKA imbeciles, as Dan put it.
I mean, is that why the theory is like still today? Like people actually.
There are people who still think the world is flat.
Yeah,
Fair.
that's true.
I don't understand it. But
People back then didn't think the world was flat.
yeah.
The ancient Greeks
Yeah,
knew
no.
it was round, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even Bugs Bunny said so.
Yeah.
If Bugs Bunny says the world is round, the world is round.
Therefore, but yeah, you've got Conan who says, "If I follow him to the end of the year of the world, it may come to that, Conan. It may very well come to that."
Yeah. That's the end of the first. Oh, this chapter then.
Yeah, that's the end of chapter 11.
And now chapter 12,
Chapter 11, Swords of the
Swords.
South, and now chapter
the
12,
Fang of the
Fang of
Dragon.
the Dragon.
The Fang of
Great
the
name for a
Dragon.
chapter.
It's even a great name for a buck.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I also had. Here's some nice illustrations. There's the boat.
Oh yeah.
Funeral barge. Then we have some emblems of King Conan, I think.
I'm going to grab mine too.
You got
Nice.
some nice stuff in there.
Which
Then
edition?
here's the. Oh, this is the Del Rey one. Like always. It's always this one.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah, that one came in 3 different
Yep.
volumes.
These
This is
three
one, the
different
whole thing.
editions.
Let's
Yeah.
see here.
It has more illustrations, so it's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Hour of the Dragon. Yeah. Mine is more like little things like that.
Yeah.
I don't think mine has those illustrations, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's what I like. I have also that one, Zero. But yeah, this one has more illustration, and it's more fun to read it, like because it's not a huge block of text.
Yeah, true.
You got a bit smaller.
I don't know where I put it, but I've got a French edition with images, but I don't think they're as grandiose as the ones you've got, World of Conan. So definitely gonna have to get that edition next.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
some cool
Yeah.
ones. We
Yeah.
got the next one, guys. It's like so good. The end of this chapter, like this is, I would say this is a classic Conan image. I wonder who it was from. Maybe we can look at this.
Oh yeah, the ghouls.
Oh wow, that's cool.
That's a fantastic picture there. Fantastic drawing.
Nice.
Like that's
Who did
That's
the
like,
illustrations for that edition?
wonder-
That's so.
yeah.
What's the name of that one? The Bloody Crown of Conan, or
the Del Rey editions, illustrated by Gary Gianni.
Impressive.
Gary Gianni is the illustrator.
oh, there we go.
An incredible artist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
I mean, this has to be one of the best ones I've seen. Like
Mm-hmm.
Conan, like this is really, gives that mythological feel and also like middle-aged king or victorious king who is fighting, with his sword drawn and striking down.
It brings to
Mhm.
mind some of the images I saw in the first history textbook I ever saw. It was from the Victorian period thereabouts. Of French. Well, it depicted some of the stuff with that kind of art, and it was French, and there was images of the paintings of Montcalm and of Wolfe, the La Bataille de Plaine d'Abraham, the Battle of the Abraham Plains.
Yeah,
So,
I've been there.
oh, cool.
To the Plains of Abraham. It's in town.
Really? What was that
I,
like?
well, I literally live in Quebec City. I mean, so that is where that battle took place.
What was that like?
It's not bad. We got the Citadel here still intact. Still you can visit it and everything. The Plains of Abraham is now a nice big public park for people to visit as well. Cannons everywhere and everything. So you can really get a feeling of like the landscape and how the battle would have taken place on that.
And we have to remember to curse Montcalm for being incompetent. He should have won that battle.
Can't be helped.
But anyways, Conan is riding on a black stallion supplied for him by Trocero, and Trocero ends up also giving him new armor, which is one of the free companies who are of all races. So, hey, people are saying that Conan's not progressive. He totally is. He wears the armor of people of all races who butcher people of all races. See, he's forward.
Mercs don't discriminate. So long as you can swing a sword, you're good to go.
Yep. Now the leather and mail mesh of his hauberk were worn and shiny, as if by many campaigns, and the scarlet cloak flowing carelessly from his mailed shoulders was tattered and stained. Kull is often depicted with a scarlet cloak, which is pretty interesting, especially in the Kull the Conqueror movie.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting nod. So, yeah, this is honestly, I love how he just goes into this big description of Conan.
Yeah, and also not just description of him, but also how he's feeling about it. Because here we get that moment where he's starting to fall back into that that mode, that adventurer mode. Like, and more than looking the part, he felt the part. The awakening of old memories, the resurge of the wild, mad, glorious days of old, before his feet were set on the imperial path, when he was a wandering mercenary, roistering, brawling, guzzling, adventuring, with no thought for the morrow and no desire save sparkling ale, red lips, and a keen sword to swing on all the battlefields of the world. That is one phrase.
Yep.
Beautiful.
That's Howard.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, that's how he writes. Really well. And you also have Conan who hums old songs that he had roared in chorus with his reckless companions in many a tavern and on many a dusty road or bloody field. So you see, Aragorn's not the only one who knows how to sing.
I mean, many of the little bits of poetry in the Road of Kings poetry in the original Conan story, Phoenix on the Sword, it's very likely Conan wrote those. It's all about Conan and his way of ruling, so to speak.
Yep. And we have Lion Mill Studio. I believe that's probably a channel. Actually, very fitting name given Conan. Hail Comicsgate, hail Iron Age. Hello.
Oh,
Hails.
Now I'm just gonna. Oh, and that also goes well with the comment that was just above it.
didn't work for the Lionheart. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're getting a lot of lion comments, so
I mean, Amra the lion.
yeah,
think about
I
it.
ain't lying when I say I love it.
Yeah.
Hope everyone appreciated the pun. We
Yeah.
need to slip at least one in every video or stream to hit a quota. That was it. But yeah. Now Conan is tempted to essentially ride on and
Yeah.
go back to the old days, but arguably there are two factors that weigh against that. One is his loyalty to Aquilonia and her people. The
All his
other,
friends.
the other is possibly.
I mean,
a
he would
stronger-
doom everyone to death. I mean, he would doom everyone to death. So
Yeah.
The other is a more literary, I don't want to say device, but the influence of one character who kind of looms over the story as much as Zaldotun, and that would be Zenobia.
Mhm.
I only comment that because she's kind of Conan's Arwen to an extent.
yeah. Also, there would be no point to rescue Countess Albiona.
Yeah. Exactly.
And there's also, this is a recurring thing with Conan. He's very much, out for himself for a lot of his, mercenary days and stuff like that. But when he's placed in a position of authority, he takes it seriously. When in Black Colossus, he doesn't spend his men carelessly when he's placed in charge of that army. He, He's mentioned that normally he'd be the first to the into the fight, just swinging away, recklessly. And he's like, yeah, when it was just my life on the line, but I'm in charge of all these people. I'm not going to just like waste them, needlessly, carelessly. And he treats his kingdom the same way. And when he's in charge of a pirate ship, he's not just, unlike Belit, who uses her, Black Corsairs as basically cannon fodder during Queen of the Black Coast, lets them get killed by a trap to disarm it so she can get to the treasure. He is very much not like that. He will, take on the same responsibilities as the people under him. He will care for them, and he will take, his responsibilities as a leader, his duties seriously. He's a man who enjoys his freedom, but he recognizes the importance of his duties as well.
Yep. I only point out the Zenobia thing more because she's essentially the same archetype as Arwen, the lady, the Queen of Love who inspires the knight to heroics, or the king to rescue his lady fair to an extent. But the difference is Zenobia, I find her more interesting than Arwen as a character. And that's not to say that I'm bad-mouthing Arwen. I'm just saying I kind of find Zenobia more interesting. But
that's a good point about Belit. It would never have worked out in the long run. Like she's
a bit of an immoral bitch. Let's face facts. She's a bit of a psycho.
Very chaotic. Yeah, I mean, you can't really build anything upon that. Foundation, I would think.
She's that great first fling that you have when you're a teenager, but it's not going to last.
Yeah, eventually Conan would have begun to grow. Yeah, and she would have gotten jealous, and it probably would have led to blood and lots of. Weirdly, I could see her probably wanting to have him eventually possibly assassinated and turning on him, and Conan not appreciating that. But I could see it finding a way to.
Or her doing something so, extreme that even he has problems with. Although they did end up sacking parts of Stygia for a while, so there's his limits in terms of what's not okay would probably be a bit debatable in those areas.
I mean, she's really prideful, so she would probably take it as a severe slight if he were like, "Okay, I have to leave now."
But the important thing, though, is that when she died in a similar in a way, her death was the best thing that happened to her, just as it, in the case of, say, Boromir from Lord of the Rings, is that it allowed for her to redeem herself and to salvage her soul, so to speak, in the sense that she was able to come back from where she had fallen in terms of morality.
Well, then again, she probably went straight back.
Well, maybe. That said, the idea of the story is that she's supposed to have been redeemed. And at least that's what I think. And
I was just thinking here when Conan is riding into this land, it was an unquiet land through which he rode. The companies of cavalry, which usually patrol the river, alert for raids out of Poitin, were nowhere in evidence. Internal strife had left the borders unguarded. I was just thinking, how bad would it be to live on the borders in the Middle Ages or somewhere constant, fighting? It's like. Probably people coming over the border now's my time, I'm gonna rob everything.
Yeah, or just bandits using that opportunity to go outside of the local sheriff's jurisdiction to another country, coming back and just
I would move immediately. I would not be at a border.
Yeah,
it would be just
especially
horrible.
now that there's a civil war in Zingara, so all those border patrols are now fighting in the middle of that war, and now you got nobody to stop random mercenaries like Conan coming through.
Yeah, well, exactly.
There is one guy in the area, and that's Valbrosa, as we soon discover, and he's not exactly an okay guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of
he's kind of skinny.
Yeah, is he a mercenary?
He's a lord.
But is he did he rise from mercenary?
Wears black plate armor and followed by 30 spearmen, black mustache hawks of the border wars, as avaricious and ruthless as himself.
He's not I think he's inherited his position, but
Yeah,
he's
that was what I was thinking. Like,
He's basically like a robber baron in certain ways. Like he's of late the
that's
toll
right.
of the caravan had been slim, and
Yeah.
Valbroso cursed the civil wars that stripped the roads of their fat traffic, even while he blessed them for the free hand they allowed him with his neighbors.
He wanted his
So-
taxes.
No, well, basically, this guy is like raiding caravans, and when they're not around, raiding his neighboring lords for whatever they got. Basically,
Yeah.
he's an asshole.
Yeah.
He's a space ball.
I'm surrounded by assholes.
What? Come on. Sorry, it's just instinctive when I think of the term asshole. It's spaceball.
He's a dark helmet.
Oh, he has dark helmet. We have Lion Mill. Oh, thanks. My comic imprint name stems from my horoscope Leo and my last name Miller. Oh, that's cool. That's very crafty. Wordplay there. I approve. I love it.
There we go.
But would you think that the robber baron Valbroso, like, I mean, he can't be robbing everyone on this caravan route. That's what I was thinking about, like taxes, because wouldn't the others in Garan Lords, or like, you're just killing everybody?
Yeah. Or in this case, maybe taxes in the sense of, hey, it's a nice caravan. Shame if anything were to happen to it. I'm going to offer you protection. See?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's what I was
with
thinking.
that Italian accent.
Of course. I am Zingara. I will take away your money.
And
That's one of the best parts in Robin Hood, Men in Tights, the Godfather scene. I can do this. Yeah. Yeah, man.
We're men. We're men in tights.
Yeah, but the Godfather scene is so good in that movie.
Yeah.
Or when they break out the scripts. Wait a minute. Let me see. Yeah, he gets another shot. What the hell? Who wrote this?
Yeah.
Anyway, Conan.
What's also great about Valbroso, real quick, other than being Dark Helmet, is that
You're not helping.
That actually is a good analogy. It's Dark Helmet riding. Dark Helmet riding on a horse. I can picture it.
Oh God, Rick Moranis. Oh, Valbroso played by Rick Moranis.
God's
a lot of
gift
space
to
balls.
the 20th century and to all millennials.
It's no wonder he goes down so easily. It's like he's such an idiot.
Yep. But Val could be, well, you've got two meanings that could come from it: valiant, or Val, the Old Norse term for slain. And broso sounds almost like bozo. So the slain bozo. Actually, knowing Howard, he was probably thinking of a slightly more Italian kind of name, since Zingara, like you had suggested, Zero. And slain and valiant, like I just think Howard does play these little name games and wordplay, rather like what Tolkien does. So when I first saw the name, I just thought, oh, so he's basically, this guy's a dead man walking. Okay. And he fancies himself valiant. Got it. And ooh, your babies.
I thought it was hard.
Yeah, I
I
know.
know a bit.
Until they start scratching at the door and crying like a baby. Ours does that. That's why we have the door open. Now, that said, it's interesting that this robber baron takes one look at Conan's worn mail and dark-scarred face and reaches the same conclusions as his writers. Let's not mess with this guy. But he ends up asking, "Who are you, knave?" "A mercenary, riding for Argos. What matter names?" says Conan. Now, partly this line would be, in my opinion, taken up by Samurai X when what is the point of introducing yourself to a corpse? To a man who's already a corpse or something. To that effect by Sigilo Hiko. So there's an echo in recent literature in the past 20 years. And you have Valbroso who says, "You're riding in the wrong direction for a free companion. Southward the fighting is good, and also the plundering. Join my company. You won't go hungry. The road remains bare of fat merchants to strip. But I mean to take my rogues and fare southward to sell our swords to whichever side seems strongest." Oh, yeah, he is an asshole. So, yeah, you totally called it, Zero.
But don't worry, he gets his.
And you've got Lion Mill Studio who says it's like when you see a guy with cauliflower ears. I'm not sure I catch on to that. Don't mess with that.
When you get like punched a lot, your ears can get kind of like damaged, and the scar tissue makes them kind of like take on a kind of a cauliflower like texture.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Boxers get that a lot. Same thing for like a broken nose that gets reset a bunch of times. It has a kind of characteristic kind of shape to it. So yeah, you see somebody who looks like they've been into a lot of fights and is still walking around. Yeah, you may want to avoid starting one with them because you might know how to kick your ass.
Okay, it's just the English description kind of threw me off a little. And
so he's not so dumb.
Flower eaters. I never heard the term before, so thanks for explaining that one to me. But yeah, you rogues of the free companies always know tricks to make men talk. I have a prisoner. Now this is after he's established that he wants to hire Conan. And
well, I mean, he figures like a guy riding on his own in the Civil War.
Yeah, this guy's obviously a merc like us. Fuck it, let's get him to join us. We could always use an extra sword arm.
Yeah.
Yep. And let's side with the strongest guy.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a lot of Italian warlords from history.
Yeah, the the Italian mercenaries. There is a word for it, but unfortunately I can't pronounce it right now.
Yep. And you have Valbroso, who says, I have a prisoner, the last merchant I caught by Mitra, and the only one I've seen for a week. And the knave is stubborn. He has an iron box, the secret of which defies us, and I've been unable to persuade him to open it. By Ishtar, I thought I knew all the modes of persuasion there are, but perhaps you, as a veteran free companion, know some that I do not. At any rate, come with me and see what you may do.
He trusts quite swiftly.
Well, the free companions have a bit of a reputation, evidently.
Yeah.
That is true. And like I said, Conan is riding on his own, so he must figure, okay, that's one dangerous and brave
He's a
man.
bad mamma jamma.
Exactly. So,
but he could be useful.
Maybe a bit mad.
Yeah. Or at the very least, okay, this is somebody we can use and we outnumber him, so if it turns out to be a bad idea, fuck it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And Turin remains quiet, and upon hearing those words, realizes this must be Zarathus, and sees it as, okay, well, Zarathus was stubborn enough to try to traverse the Zingaran Road during the Civil War, so he's probably stubborn enough to try to defy torture. So, yeah, let's check it out. It's the first lead I've got, which, yeah. Now, this is where Conan kind of makes a semi-mistake. He fell in beside Valbroso and rode up the straggling road to the top of the hill where the gaunt castle stood. As a man-at-arms, he should have ridden behind the count, but force of habit made him careless, and Valbroso paid no heed.
Lucky him.
Yeah. Years of life on the border had taught the count that the frontier is not the royal court. He was aware of the independence of the mercenaries, behind whose swords many a king had trodden the throne path. Yeah. And, well, all I was going to comment was, from an archetypal point of view, Conan can't completely hide what he is. He is the king.
Yeah.
So he doesn't ride behind dudes, he rides ahead of them.
Yeah. But luckily, Valbroso doesn't really pay attention to this.
Yeah, Valbroso, I think, is caught up in his own thoughts.
Yeah.
Being weighed down by that helmet will do that to you.
So Conan will have to give him the raspberry.
No, I think the other guy did.
He's got to check the movie.
You're looking at now. Whatever happened.
That's a great scene. What's now? But then? No, but now.
Well, when? Just now.
Oh, missed it.
Just now. We passed it then.
When? Ooh! And then when they comb the desert.
We ain't found shit. I love that movie. It's one of the best in history. It's not just a great parody, it's just such a great movie. All right. And
Yeah, you'd like a Pizza the Hut.
oh yeah, everybody would.
Walking around so you can always eat it. Eat a pizza. Gross.
Now, the castle is, of course, described. There was a dry moat, half filled with debris in some places. They clattered across the drawbridge and through the arch of the gate. Behind them, the portcullis fell with a sullen clang. They came into a bare courtyard grown with struggling grass and with a well in the middle. Shacks for the men-at-arms straggled about the bailey wall, and women slatternly or decked in gaudy finery looked from the doors. Fighting men in rusty mail tossed dice on the flags under the arches. It was more like a bandit's hold than the castle of a nobleman, which that speaks to the kind of nobleman Valbroso is.
Yeah,
definitely.
And to the state of the Zingaran borderlands.
Perhaps all of Zingara to an extent, possibly.
I mean, Civil War will do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And here, what I love is that you have Howard writes it as, how belloso quoth Valbroso has he spoken? Quoth, that's an older term for said. And I just love that because, well, I read a lot of older lit, so I love seeing that sort of thing. And more recent literature always brings me a smile, like the one on Zero's face. Oh, except he smiles because he looks at his wife. I smile because I see quoth. Now, let's see. But Belloso, the torturer, is a scarred, hard-looking man in mail who is the captain of the guards. And he describes Zarathus as stubborn. And immediately Belloso doesn't like Conan and shoots him a suspicious glance. Which, yeah. They then guide Conan upwards and show him various machines of torture. Racks, boots, hooks, and also a rack.
And that is where our boy is, unfortunately for him.
Yeah. The
Already dying.
Yeah.
Conan's very lucky here. Or maybe it's not luck, but
maybe it's written.
Him. Now, a lot of Tolkien tubers, if this was a Tolkien story, would say this might be a Iluvatar, kind of helping out a little in that indirect kind of way so that there are no coincidences. But since it's Howard, we have to say it's either luck or Mitra. Who knows?
I'm willing to go with luck simply because that is a recurring thing to the pulp aesthetic of that time. Things like, having, lucky breaks and stuff like that is pretty, par for the genre. So,
on the other hand, I also like the other explanation because it elevates Howard. But anything to raise up my boy. But on the other hand, yeah, probably is luck. But Conan, it's interesting, takes one look and at the man and notices and realizes that because of the unnatural elongation of his limbs and body, told of unhinged joints and unnameable ruptures, and that this means the man is dying. Which, yeah, he is. Too bad for him. He was a dark man with an intelligent, aquiline face and quick dark eyes, and they were glazed and bloodshot now with pain, and the dew of agony glistened on his face. His lips were drawn back from blackened gums. Ooh. And not exactly a pretty picture. Let's just say he's not ready to have his picture taken for an in-law's wedding or something.
Yeah, no.
No, not really. Valbroso still pitches a small fit over the box, and
Which is
kinda
described. Yeah.
I was just wondering why did he protect that treasure? Like just give it to them. Like don't die over it. Who cares?
yeah, it
Like
might
seriously,
be,
he's a isn't he a merchant or something like that? Like it's not that big of a deal in that way.
it might be spite and greed.
Some
Yeah.
very, very good spite and some very, very good greed.
I mean, rather live another day to earn. I would think, like his character would think, than to die on that
Well,
gem.
yeah, and the thing is, the treasure though. Well, the treasure box apparently is famous in Zingara, as all men of the south know of Zarathos and his iron chest. Mitra knows what is in it, but he will not give up its secret. So the thing is, Zarathos has traveled that road before, and has an iron
Yeah.
chest that he sticks his favorite goodies into.
Mhm.
But the trouble is that he never reveals the goodie he has in there until he's takes it out in private and sells it. It seems.
Yeah, and the chest itself is it mentioned forged in unholy fires among the flaming mountains of Korsha. The metal no chisel can cut. So, yeah, it's basically the One Ring in box form.
Yeah. And the trouble is, Valbroso has noticed Zarathos' travels and really, really, really wants that box, and he's curious what's in it. And the most recent item that's been chucked in there is, of course, the Heart of Ahriman.
Yeah.
Which
I don't know why he would die for that treasure.
I don't
Makes
either, but
makes no sense.
greed and spite. He doesn't like the guy he's currently renting for, and he's also greedy because it's his. Maybe who knows? He wasn't thinking logically when he was being.
No, it wasn't.
And Conan immediately says, "Ease those ropes, knave." With Valbroso and his captain staring, and in the forgetfulness of the moment, Conan had used his imperial tone, and the brute in leather instinctively obeyed the knife edge of command in that voice. It's funny that Conan assumed command there, with Valbroso and his captain just kind of going, "What?"
Well, he tends to do that regardless of the situation he's in anyway, so it's not too unusual for him. Plus, he's still in king mode a little bit, at the very least for that. But he finally does get to talk to this guy, and the guy recognizes him as Conan. Is like, "Oh, I'm dying, aren't I? I'm seeing ghosts. Shit."
And, well, that's exactly what happens. And Conan tells him, "You're not dead, but you're dying. You'll be tortured no more. I'll see to that. But I can't help you further. Yet before you die, tell me how to open your iron box." And apparently Zarathos is delirious at this point. And yeah, you have that lore bit that Zero had noted. The metal no chisel can cut. And apparently, how many treasures has it borne across the width and the breadth of the world? But no such treasure as it now holds. So basically, the Heart of Ahriman is the most valuable thing in the world.
Yeah.
And Zarathos knows this, and that's part of the reason why he wasn't willing to crack it open. Not the wisest, of course, life choices to make.
No.
No. So Conan pleads with him again, "Tell me how to open it."
Yeah. And Valbroso finally says, "Only Valbroso will I tell. Death is upon me. Lean close to me, Valbroso." And you just know at that point, this guy is dead. Regardless of what happens to this guy on the rack, Valbroso's not getting out of this alive.
Yeah, but it's interesting that he says, "I have seen you sitting on your throne in the great public hall of Tarantia, with your crown on your head and the scepter in your hand." So this guy is seeing Conan dispensing justice as king.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, he's a merchant, so he's probably been to Aquilonia, definitely.
Yeah. And he's a merchant of some renown, so obviously it would make sense if he had seen Conan.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, he's willing to tell Valbroso, and you have that. "Press the 7 skulls on the rim, one after another," gasped Zarathos. Press then the head of the dragon that writhes across the lid. Then press the sphere in the dragon's claws. That will release the secret catch. Now, dragons often protect treasure and maidens and try to kill any hero or knight who comes after them.
Mhm.
This robber baron not being at all heroic. So in traditional literature, if he was facing a dragon, he'd probably be snuffed out. So yeah, this is pretty. Howard's making a lot of old lit references.
Yeah. I mean, the chapter is called The Fang of the Dragon. We're about to see what happens when it bites.
Yep, and boy, does it bite. And you have Beloso. Let me open it, cried Beloso, starting forward. Valbroso cursed him back, his greed blazing in his black eyes. None but me shall open it. Conan, whose hand had instinctively gone to his hilt, glanced at Zarathus. So, like, Conan's about to fight them for it, starting a three-way argument. But, well, sort of. He's going to solve it with his sword. But Conan then hesitates and glances at Zarathus, whom, it has to be noted, is kind of smirking.
I mean, Conan has come up on his fair share of traps.
Yeah.
During his travels. I would think Conan has learned by now, the take things at their own time, like think about things.
Well, that's again something. He was far more impulsive in the stories that take place in his youth compared to now. Here he's seasoned warrior and kingdom administrator, so he has mellowed in his older years.
There's a
Or
difference
just learned
between Alpha Tower and here.
Oh, yeah. He was 15 in that story. Thereabouts, 15 or 17.
There you go.
And here, Conan is rather... I'm just looking at some of my notes. And here, like I said, it's interesting that Conan hesitates as it hints that Conan has got a bad feeling about this chest. And he's kind of going...
I mean, it's an iron chest covered in skulls and dragons.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He figured there's probably some protection.
That literally is depicted as not having an obvious way of opening it. You gotta know there's gonna be a booby trap in there somewhere.
A smart merchant would have.
Yeah.
A booby trap.
But a dumb baron won't bother to check.
Nope.
No,
We'll just
of course
crack
not.
open the... But technically, Valbroso does get to open the chest and look upon the jewel.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Mitra, what a jewel! Valbroso's hand dived into the chest, came out with a great pulsing crimson sphere that filled the room with a lambent glow. In its glare, Valbroso looked like a corpse, and the dying man on the western track laughed.
Yeah, that's a little bit of foreshadowing. Just a moment before we actually get the reveal of what happened when he pricked himself on that dragon head. It's like, like the Heart of Ahriman reveals truth in a certain way to those who are
that's really
exposed
cool.
to it.
That's really cool how he wrote that.
Yeah.
He pricks his thumb on a sharp point on the carvings. And I like
Did
how...
we talk about that? Sorry. Did we talk about that? The Heart of Ahriman, is it kind of like sentient, like alive in a sense?
We did.
Like it has
It has a will of its own in many ways.
Yeah, emotions.
Yeah.
It shows
its own will.
Mhm.
It's the polar opposite, like the flip side to the One Ring, in a way. Except the One Ring is very, very evil. But
whereas the heart just doesn't really care if it's used or how it's used, just that it's used, so to speak.
Yeah. And you have, of course, Zarathus, who says, "Fool, the jewel is yours. I give you death with it. The scratch of your thumb. Look at the dragon's head, Valbroso." And then they all stare, and you have Zarathus. The dragon's fang, steeped in the venom of the black Stygian scorpion. Fool to open the box of Zarathus with your naked hand. Death, you are a dead man now. Well, that seems a very nice thing to do.
Well, turnabout's fair play. You tortured a guy to death. He poisons you with, the liquid fire running through your veins.
Yep. And this is where the scene could have been written in the Victorian era. Just because, well, for one thing, you have a few Shakespeare, like the dialogue with Zarathus and Valbroso here, as Valbroso is dying, is reminiscent to an extent of Shakespeare, but also of Walter Scott, I think it is, the writer of Ivanhoe. And you have also the fact of, in its glare, Valbroso looks like a corpse, which reminds me of how Joseph Conrad wrote some of his stories and how he described certain characters who were about to die like that, like earlier in the story, or even in the lead up to the death. So this is a literary device that's pretty funny, arguably, and it's one that has quite a bit of literary history behind it, proving just how well read Howard was.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, once Valbroso is nice and dead, Conan just goes dead and stoops down to pick up the jewel where it rolled on the floor from Valbroso's rigid hand,
And then Peloso
decides dibs.
well, they both say the same thing. Dead, muttered Conan, and Peloso's got the same idea. Dead, and then whacks him on the back of the head while he's bent over to pick up the jewel and just like makes off with it.
Yep. And yeah, this is where Peloso ends up, well, racing off for the horses to go. I don't even know what Peloso's thinking here.
I don't think he's thinking at all. I think maybe the heart is working on his brain maybe a little bit.
Rather like the One Ring.
Yeah, there's definitely you definitely see some similarities in the sense that people are loath to give it up.
Yeah,
Probably brings out
that might
the
be
true inner self.
in a way. Yeah,
Possibly, yeah.
Beloso and
and Valbroso.
Valbroso are greedy at their core.
Yeah.
They just
Zarathus, yeah.
Same with
There
Zoroaster.
is that, and there's also like maybe it's more or less the inner self and more like those with weak will, who are just like easily influenced.
That's
And regardless, he just runs out, grabs his horse, slashing at anybody who tries to stop him, and rushes right out of the castle.
It very much comes down to will, because Conan later possesses the heart of argument, and he doesn't give in to it. But
it does say here like
it might be
dead.
why. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say it does say here dead muttered Beloso with madness in his eyes, and then he moved. So that he become mad.
So, to answer, World of Conan, you were wondering why did Zarathus decide he could die for this thing? It might be because of the heart. He could not bring himself to give it up.
Yeah, that could. Yeah.
Not without killing the person who took it from him at the very least.
Yeah. So, yeah. And if Conan had gotten it now, it'd be a much shorter novel. So, thank
There's
heaven
that as well.
That said, you have a woman who howls. He's mad. He came out of the castle like a mad dog, hewing right and left. Peloso's mad. Where's Lord Valbroso? And Conan just roars at everyone. Which way did he go?
Yeah. Peloso has killed Valbroso.
This is
that's a good point.
Brilliant. That's a brilliant idea. It's a lie, but it's a brilliant idea on Conan's part to get these men to help him out a little,
or at least get out of his way.
Yeah. Now, long term, it could potentially lead to them maybe helping out in some capacity because, he basically just framed Peloso for what is really, Valbroso committed suicide by stupidity. So,
yeah.
What we just talked about, it actually says here, why the Zingaran fled from one pursuer, Conan did not tax his bruised brain to guess. Perhaps unreasoning panic rode Beloso, born of the madness that lurked in that blazing jewel.
Yep. So Howard, Howard states it outright.
Yeah. And also he mentions here, just as after he mentions, or Conan yells out that Beloso killed Valbroso. Well, A wild outcry burst forth at his news, but their reaction was exactly as he had anticipated. Instead of closing the gates to take him prisoner or pursuing the fleeing slayer to avenge their lord, they were thrown to even greater confusion by his words. Wolves bound together only by the fear of Valbroso, they owed no allegiance to the castle or to each other.
Yep.
And so they start infighting, and he just sneaks out on a horse and goes after Belroso.
Yep. I wonder if he took the same horses before. Probably.
I think so, yeah. He mentions that the stallion was not fully rested.
Hmm. And which, yeah, good catch. That means it was actually his horse.
Yeah.
Because his horse had not yet gotten to properly rest.
And then we end up with some problems because they're going off the road into some, darker areas, and they're not alone out there.
Nope. And you've got the horse that really struggles. And it eventually just misses its shadow.
Yeah.
Its footing, and the shadows. And Conan's hurled off the saddle.
Yeah.
And hits his head.
But now before, there's this light little throwaway line. Above the pound of the hooves, a strange cry arose from the shadows, but neither pursuer nor pursued gave heed. That's their first foreshadowing that something's coming.
Yep.
Yeah, I just read that as well. I was going to say same thing.
And how long Conan lay senseless, he never knew. His first sensation of returning consciousness was that of being dragged by one arm over rough and stony ground and through dense underbrush. Now, for one thing, it's interesting that Conan actually got outsmarted there, but his head was throbbing, so we'll give him a pass because he had a migraine.
I was wondering, why didn't Belloso kill him there?
Well, I think it was more like, whack, grab Jewel, run. I don't think he was thinking of, actually, okay,
to stay
foresight, I'm going to kill this person.
Yeah. Or to risk staying and fighting because he saw that he's an experienced fighter. So,
Yeah, he wasn't exactly going, all right, my plan to seize the jewel, step 1. Step 2, step 3.
Yeah.
Or maybe he saw the creatures come out and he was like, oh yeah, I'm gone.
Yeah, that's true. Well, no, I don't think he saw much of anything. He just,
Yeah, he basically just saw him turn around, then his horse got stumbled, and he, landed head first and stuff.
Oh, wait, Belloso echoed the cry. Yeah, okay, so he might have seen something in the darkness.
But in any case, now he's got to deal with the thing that he saw.
Yeah.
And having pretty much an unconscious body groaning over there might also be a good diversion.
That's true.
Creatures tend to prefer hunting the injured rather than...
Yep. And you have... now, Conan ends up remembering grisly tales of what men call ghouls, eaters of human flesh, spawn of darkness, children of unholy matings of a lost and forgotten race with the demons of the underworld. Somewhere in those primitive forests were the ruins of an ancient accursed city. Men whispered, and among its tombs slunk gray anthropomorphic shadows. Conan shuddered strongly. So even Conan...
And they're very ancient.
Yeah.
And they're very ancient if he goes back to the demon times.
Now, we don't really get much of a physical description of these things, at least not as far as I can tell. But I think it's safe to say they probably resemble some kind of feral version of the ghouls that were so popular with Clark Ashton Smith and H.P. Lovecraft as well.
It does say gray corpse-like skin were stringy and hard as steel wires, exceeding the strength of a man.
Mm-hmm.
It also is mentioned as having a malformed head. And Conan is dragged off the white road.
Gnashing fangs.
Yeah.
The regular,
which would probably resemble the more dog-like, mandible of the Lovecraftian ghouls.
But the road could be taken as the world, the standard world that you or I know, and he's dragged off from there and into the realm of ghouls, so to speak, in a literary sense. And he ends up having to squabble with it because he likes living and breathing, and it doesn't like him doing that.
Yeah.
So they squabble over that.
That's sword point.
Yeah. And when a sound did come, no, well, real quick, it is interesting that Conan himself shudders.
Yeah.
Stories he's heard, which those must be awful stories. If he's basically shuddering over it.
He is only human after all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just a question of like some monster, rumored to be out there. It's an entire race of monsters born of unholy unions, of flesh-eating eaters of the dead, born of human stock but corrupted and transformed through unholy breeding into some kind of nightmare monster. I mean, that if that ain't gonna give you a couple of chills down your spine, nothing will.
Yeah. And and the thought of man-eaters is, well, we got to bear in mind the conquistadors themselves, which were pretty hardened brutes, shuddered and were disgusted and horrified when they reached the capital of the Aztec Empire, because a lot of the men of the nobility there were man-eaters. So
this does remind of other monsters in Conan tales. Was it the Jewels of Guadalupe?
The servants of Biakin, those things.
Yeah.
Were also eaters of dead men.
Yeah, weren't they also kind of like not really human? They were kind of
anthropoid, kind of almost like ape-like, creatures.
Yeah, exactly.
I always kind of thought of those as kind of ghoulish in many ways, possibly similar to these ones, although tamed by Bityakin, obviously. But yeah, those ones ate the dead as they were, delivered down the river.
Could they be of the same race, by the way?
Yeah, possible.
So
I do see here Conan threw up his right arm and the dog-like jaws closed on it. So I think it's safe to say these are full-on ghouls. These are, exactly the ghouls that we're thinking of when we think of H.P. Lovecraft, Clark Ashton Smith. These are a direct reference shared between all three of those guys.
I mean, here is a picture of them, so you can.
once again, that great picture.
Yeah.
So,
But what's great is that the stallion doesn't immediately give in, and the stallion ends up screaming with fear and fury and lashes out with its heels and actually hits one of them with a knight, often being supposed to basically, a knight and his steed basically going together in a lot of old stories and classical chivalric thought, and even in Japan with the samurai, the bushi. And so the horse is essentially also symbolic of Conan to an extent. There's no way he'd give it in because
it's a war horse. It's
that thing's not going to tickle when it lashes at you.
No.
And when Conan hits you, you typically go down.
Yeah, whether it's by sword, axe, dagger, you name it.
Or fist.
Yeah. Or beef joint in one story.
Yeah, I remember that. And here, Conan, it's interesting because the description is pretty frantic. With a curse, the king hewed right and left with his broadsword, thrust and ripped with his dagger. Dripping fangs flashed in the moonlight. Foul paws caught at him, but he hacked his way through to the stallion, caught the reins, leaped into the saddle. His sword rose and fell, a frosty arc in the moon, showering blood as it split misshapen heads, clove shambling bodies. The stallion reared, biting and kicking. They burst through and thundered down the road. On either hand, for a short space, flitted gray abhorrent shadows. Then these fell behind. And Conan, topping a wooded crest, saw a vast expanse of bare slope sweeping up and away before him.
Yeah, he's out of that forest, and he can finally, continue on from this little random encounter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and escaping the man-eating furries.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily call them furries as such.
But
essentially, same thing.
But this is one of those times, few as they are, where Conan is panicking. And he obviously isn't thinking this is a fun time.
No. That's something that people, underestimate about Conan is that, he gets scared about stuff. He's not, always,
quite a few
situation.
stories.
Yeah. He typically comes out of it, but it's definitely not always easy for him.
Instant reaction. Yeah.
He loves adventuring. He loves going down into a tomb and fighting some ancient evil, but he doesn't like fighting these man-eaters.
I wouldn't say necessarily likes to fight the ancient evil. He just, really wants that treasure it's got.
He wants to beat them.
Yeah.
He doesn't like the actual fight. He likes winning. How very French of him.
He likes to kill every monster.
I have a friend from England who once described the French as, "Oh, the French don't like war. What you French like is winning at everything." And war is just something to be won. And if you lose, you have to hate the loser, even if they're French. And that's why the French love Charles de Gaulle and are annoyed with Napoleon, because Napoleon lost. And he's a pretty funny guy. He ended up describing it that way. And when I go, I'm going to upload this stream, if you guys want, over on Storyfire, so he's probably going to see it. So
nice.
Shout out to Samwise. He knows who he is. I'll probably just tag him later. Anyways, it's interesting how Conan shoots out like a bat out of hell.
Yeah.
His horse isn't all that tired.
Yeah, well, it's got some good encouragement to get going.
Adrenaline. Let's get out of here.
Fast.
Yeah. I like this chapter more, this second chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Fangs of the Dragon, more than the first one.
It's definitely got more action to it.
Yeah.
The other one is very much like exposition and, setting the scene for this next part of the Conan's journey.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to decide a favorite between them. I love exposition. I'm weird that way. But on the other hand...
Oh, I know, I do as well.
On the other hand, you do bring up there's a lot that happens in the Fang of the Dragon, and there's one thing that it has almost more than the other chapter, and that's a lot of lore and medieval lit nods here and there, and even some Victorian lit. And you read Lord of the Rings and you kind of see the effect of the Heart of Ahriman, and you're reminded of the One Ring. So it's hard to decide a favorite between these two. So I can't. I really like both chapters.
What's really amazing is that, just going off of the version I've got here, these two chapters count for, let's see here, starts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, chapter 11 is 7 pages here, and chapter 12 starts at here at the bottom of this page. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's about 8 pages for that one chapter, and that's written in a fairly small type like there. So yeah, you pack a lot of stuff. I mean, we just got 2 hours on this thing, 2 chapters. So go Howard, the guy knows how to pack a chapter full of stuff.
With me, as much as I like Trocaro and his knights and their zeal,
we'll strike for Empire. It's like we'll take over the world.
I do like the action of the second chapter and how there's some story arcs that are closing up, and then there are
more that are opening up at with the blow of a mace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then from there, it opens on those bare slopes sleeping up and away from him. And it's like it's really, you've gotten to that, boom, okay, this part of the adventure's over. This new part is just starting. We've got more stuff coming up. And if it ends here, imagine how it's going to continue on from there.
Each part of the story seems like it has its own rising and descending action. And it keeps rising up like a slope and then descending like a hill, rises like a hill, and that goes down.
Well, remember, Howard is very much, for the most part, aside from this book here, a short story writer. Yep. So each chapter very much has the feel of a short story. It's a very Hour of the Dragon is fairly episodic. It's one of the reasons why this particular format of going every couple of chapters and doing a live stream about it works so well, is because they're relatively self-contained in that regard. They have their own story arcs, so to speak, that they continue on while building on to the main one. Yeah.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Are their own sub-stories.
Yeah.
Like you can see with the chapters, they really end with a cliffhanger. But not like irritatingly.
Again, exactly as was the tradition for pulp authors. You look at someone like Maxwell Gibson for The Shadow and stuff like that. Same kind of thing. You have that build up, and then it leads to comes to a plateau, comes to a climax, and then we go on to the next chapter. And sometimes it's a bit more of a slow burn for that one, or sometimes it just keeps going up from a higher point and just keeps ramping things up. So there is a lot of that. It's very much that particular literary style of that era that is exemplary in this, and it works very well for this kind of novel.
I mean, just think like the 11th chapter ends with, then by Crom, fortune has last thrown the dice for me, and then he's like, I'll follow him to the end of the world, and then it stops.
And then commercial break.
Exactly, and then the next one ends with a great fight, and once again he's on the road. So it really has those great cliffhangers.
Yeah, and I'm very excited to see how this story is gonna carry on.
We're gonna get to go into the city. It seems like in the next chapter. Really cool.
Yeah. And we get a certain group of 4 Kitai warriors who decide to show up again.
Oh yeah, those guys sent after him.
Yeah. Yeah, suffice to say, things are going to escalate from here.
Yep, because Conan's going to have to face, the city. He's going to have to...
Stygia.
Yep.
Sorcerers.
Doesn't he end up facing vampires?
Yeah, that comes up.
Yeah,
okay, so he does face Tia Carrera.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, obviously. The Cole movie was based on Hour of the Dragon. It's literally got Akivasha as a character.
Yep.
Which she could still be cast in the role. Joke. Actually, I don't know because I haven't seen what she looks like these days. I was cracking a joke there. But you never know how some people age.
Yeah.
But actually, let me check that. Let me see. How has she aged? This I gotta see.
Oh God.
I only know her from the Call movie. I don't really know her from almost anything else.
Not even
True
from
Lies.
the Wayne's World.
True Lies. I always know her from True Lies.
I tried to blank out True Lies. I didn't like that movie.
What?
Yeah,
that's one of the best. That's one of the best movies. That's a fantastic movie. Love the comedy in that movie.
She doesn't look as great as she used to, but she still looks pretty good.
I've seen worse 50-year-olds.
Yeah. So, okay. Cast her as Akivasha. I don't think she'd want to revisit her old role. I don't think.
No.
It's strange. Some of the comments don't. You can't see the comments on StreamYard. I see on the YouTube page. You see, there's more comments from Lion Mill, but you can't see them.
Okay. I didn't see any of them.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You can't see them here. It's weird, but you see on the YouTube page.
All right. Can you read them out?
No, he just says.
I'm sure that guy will be fine. Yeah.
Here, I'll just.
This is fun, guys. Gotta take the dog out. I'll be on the lookout for your next hangout. Hail.
Okay.
I should probably take the dog out too at some point.
I'll just go check that out because I do feel bad. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't show up here on StreamYard. The comments. That's weird.
Yeah, that's so weird. Normally it does appear.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm sure that guy will be fine. Referring to. Oh, right. I think that was Zarathus. Yeah. Well, booby, I'm not sure what that's a reference to.
Who knows?
Ghoul slap equals fury. Furry.
Furry.
Yeah. This is fun, guys. Gotta take the dog out. I'll be on the lookout for your next hangout. Hail. Oh, so he's one of yours, World of Conan. Good. We're always welcome to more.
And Gregory L. Levitre says, "Hey, oh,
Hails.
uh,
Good
Wait.
timing. We're just
Indeed.
gonna end it.
Yeah.
But it's strange what they didn't show up those comments. But anyway,
Yeah.
But normally it does show up in the comment section.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
yeah,
comments.
it's really weird. It's
Mm.
really
it's
weird.
wacky. I'll try to get that
Well,
fixed. But
people do
Well,
say
well-
StreamYard is not the perfect, so it has a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As well, so
Yeah.
it's not the
Well,
first one.
For Dragon Hour, the next will be chapter 13 and 14 with
A ghost out of the past.
there we go."
and I've only got notes.
The Black Hand of Set. Now that sounds cool.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Black Hand of Set.
We'll have to decide later who's hosting the next
Yeah.
chapters. But
Speaking,
I think-
I was just gonna say, speaking about Set, I wonder if he what happened to Set? Like, was he? Because it says in the God in the Bowl that he was once a man, or he walked as a man on the earth. So it's interesting what happened.
I haven't read
Anyway.
Conan, so
Yeah.
gonna have to check that out.
hmm
But as it is, I think our next stream will probably be probably a movie stream. Oh,
Oh
right,
yeah.
Conan the Destroyer.
Oh, that's gonna be a long one, I think.
boy.
Yeah, but well,
Many
that's
an hour.
to end it, and I'm really starting to. Well, I'm starting to feel tired, so
Yes.
I think that's about it. Given we've gone on for 2 hours, almost 2.5.
Well, 216 at the very least.
Yeah,
It's the normal length for these
Yeah.
chapters.
love
We
Dragon
usually go
Hour.
2 hours.
These are amongst my favorite streams.
Definitely.
I'm just saying, I love talking Hour of the Dragon.
Yeah,
I
you
love
really get more deeper into Howard's writing and stuff like that. You really appreciate it even more. Like when you go slowly through chapter to chapter, you see like Zero said about the pulp style and the trappings, but in a good way. I mean,
Yeah.
and all those things like really pop out, and you see the depth here, and also like this is like the culmination. What I got the feel like you really go kind of like a different
It's kind of-
areas of his life. You go through different areas of his life, like
Indeed.
he went through.
And
Yeah,
for
so
Howard,
it's really cool.
it's kind of like his ninth symphony. Like his entire
Yeah.
life building up to this moment.
Yeah,
And
it really is.
as a writer, and he brings it all together in
Yeah.
this one glorious novel, which at the time I don't think there was ever a novel quite like Hour of the Dragon, and arguably been 17 years before anyone would see something again like it in Lord of the Rings. This kind of epic, weird, sweeping tale
Yeah,
that spans almost an entire world.
yeah,
and-
fantasy tale.
It's just, yeah. But anyways, I don't think we've got much more to.
I think we've exhausted pretty much
Yeah.
these 2 chapters.
These 2 chapters are done. So it was a great stream. So we'll see on the next one. And then,
Yep. So
thanks for all the guys in the chat.
Yes, thank you.
yeah,
Comments, really cool. Subscribe to all the channels, like the stream and stuff like that.
These guys, this guy.
yep. And and the
That
other
guy.
two guys. That guy.
I always get mixed up with those.
Yeah, same. Anyways,
Hail to the barbarian horde.